Lena had always felt like something was missing from her life. Growing up in a small town at the edge of the forest, she lived an ordinary life, school, work, and the occasional night out with friends. But despite the simplicity, there were moments when a strange feeling washed over her, as if something far greater was calling to her. She often had dreams about forests, wolves, and a moon that shone brighter than any other. One night, after a particularly vivid dream, Lena found herself in a place she didn't recognize. The familiar streets of her town were gone, replaced by towering trees and a mist that seemed to hang in the air like a heavy blanket. She wandered through the forest, unsure of how she had gotten there, her heart racing with a mix of fear and excitement. It was as though something pulled her deeper into the woods, leading her to the heart of the forest. Unbeknownst to her, Lena had crossed a boundary that separated the human world from a land of wolves, power, and ancient magic. She had unknowingly entered the territory of the Scarred Fang Pack, the largest and most powerful pack in the region. The pack had been searching for their Luna for years, the woman destined to complete the Alpha King and restore peace to their lands. For the longest time, the king had felt lost, torn between his duties and the longing for the one person who could make him whole. His name was Auric, and his eyes had seen both great power and endless sorrow. Auric, the Alpha King of the Scarred Fang Pack, was a figure of strength and mystery. He ruled with a commanding presence, his dark hair and sharp features making him both admired and feared. Yet despite his dominance, there was a part of him that was empty, a part that only the right woman could fill, the woman he had been searching for, his Luna. Years had passed since the first signs of the bond he shared with his Luna had appeared. He had searched far and wide, crossing borders, battling rivals, and meeting countless women, yet none of them were the one. His pack began to question whether he would ever find his mate, and whispers of doubt spread through the land. It wasn't until the night Lena wandered into the forest that everything changed. Auric had been out on a patrol with his closest warriors when he sensed it. A strange, powerful energy that seemed to draw him in. It wasn't like anything he had felt before, and it sent a shiver down his spine. He followed the feeling, his feet carrying him through the trees until he stumbled upon her, a young woman, lost and confused, standing at the edge of his territory. Her eyes, wide with wonder, met his, and for a moment, everything else seemed to fade away. Lena didn't know what was happening. She had no idea who this man was or why she felt drawn to him. She tried to speak, but her voice faltered. Her heart raced as if her very soul recognized him, but she didn't understand what was happening, only that she felt safe in his presence. Auric took a step forward, his eyes narrowing. The pull between them was undeniable, stronger than anything he had ever experienced. "Who are you?" he asked, his voice low and commanding. I don't know," Lena replied, her words trembling. I think I'm lost. There was no logical explanation for it. She had been in her town just hours ago, but now, here she was, in a forest that felt both alien and familiar. Auric studied her carefully, his instincts screaming that she was important, that she was the one he had been searching for. The strange mark on her wrist, the one that glowed faintly under the moonlight, was the same mark every Luna carried. It was an ancient symbol, one that only appeared when the moon chose its destined mate for the Alpha King. His heart skipped a beat. Could she really be his Luna? "You're not supposed to be here," Auric said, his voice now softer. "This is the territory of the Scarred Fang Pack. You've crossed into our land without knowing it. But there's something about you, something that calls to me." Lena didn't know what he meant, but she felt the truth in his words. Her hand unconsciously touched the mark on her wrist, the glow growing stronger in response. She shuddered, both frightened and fascinated by the sensation. Before she could say anything, a group of Auric's warriors appeared behind him, their eyes scanning Lena with suspicion. The pack had been waiting for their Luna, and the sudden appearance of this young woman was both a blessing and a mystery. Auric raised a hand to silence them, his eyes never leaving Lena's. "I will take her to the pack's home," he ordered. "We need to understand what this means." Lena followed him, unsure of what to do but unable to fight the pull she felt toward him. They walked in silence, the forest stretching on in every direction. The wolves of the pack watched them closely from the shadows, some with awe, others with uncertainty. Arik was their king, but if this woman truly was his Luna, it could change everything. When they arrived at the pack's territory, Lena was led into a large, beautifully decorated hall, a place where the pack gathered for meetings, feasts, and celebrations. The air inside was thick with energy, power, magic, and the presence of wolves who were more than they seemed. The moment Lena entered, the entire room fell silent. All eyes were on her, the atmosphere charged with anticipation. Arik stood beside her, his posture regal yet tense. He knew the pack would be watching him closely, waiting for his decision. "Everyone," Arik began, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "This is Lena. I believe she is the Luna the pack has been waiting for." A ripple of shock spread through the room. Whispers filled the air, and Lena felt her pulse quicken. She looked up at Arik, her eyes wide. "What do you mean?" "I'm just me. You're more than you know," Arik replied softly. He turned to the rest of the pack. "We need to be careful. Lena's presence here is not a coincidence. The moon goddess has brought her to us, and we must honor that." Lena felt a wave of confusion wash over her. She wasn't sure what to believe anymore. All her life she had been ordinary, unremarkable, but now everything was changing. She was being told she was something special, something the entire pack had been waiting for. As the night wore on, Lena was introduced to the members of the pack. The warriors were kind but reserved, watching her with curiosity. The women of the pack, though, were cautious. They knew the weight of the role that had fallen on Lena's shoulders. Being the Luna meant responsibility, power, and sacrifice. Later, Arik took Lena aside, leading her to a quiet corner of the pack's home. The moonlight shone through the windows, casting a soft glow on their faces. He looked at her with a mixture of wonder and wariness. "You're afraid," he said quietly. "I can see it in your eyes. This isn't what you expected." Lena nodded, her hands trembling. "I don't understand any of this. I don't even know who I really am." Arik reached out, gently taking her hand. "You are the Luna," he said, his voice filled with a quiet intensity. "And whether you're ready or not, our fates are now tied. The bond between us is real." The moment his touch lingered on her hand, Lena felt a surge of warmth and energy, something deep and ancient, something that connected them in a way words could never describe. "I didn't ask for this," she whispered, though a part of her knew it was inevitable. Arik's eyes softened, his grip tightening slightly. "Neither did I. But sometimes the moon chooses for us." Lena didn't know what the future held, but one thing was certain. Her life had changed forever. The Alpha King had found his Luna, but the question remained, would she be able to accept her destiny? Would she be able to embrace the bond that had been forged by the moon itself? As she stood beside Arik, looking out into the night, she knew there was no turning back. The path ahead was uncertain, filled with challenges, but one thing was clear. She was no longer just Lena. She was something more. And with Arik, she would have to find out exactly what that meant. Cliffhanger. Just as Lena began to process everything, a deep howl echoed through the night, signaling danger. The pack's warriors shifted into alert mode, their eyes scanning the horizon. Arik turned to Lena, his expression hardening. "We're not alone," he said, his voice grim. "Something is coming, and it's after you." The howl echoed through the night, sending a shiver down Lena's spine. It wasn't the sound of a wolf. It was something darker, more menacing. The warriors of the Scarred Fang pack immediately shifted into action, their eyes sharp and focused. Lena could feel the tension in the air, the weight of Arik's gaze on her, as he turned to face her with a solemn expression. "We need to move." "Now," Arik said, his voice low but filled with authority. He didn't wait for her to respond. His hand was already on her arm, guiding her quickly through the halls of the pack's home. Lena, still overwhelmed by everything that had happened since she arrived, tried to keep up with Arik's swift pace. Her heart was racing, not just from fear, but from the realization of the power she now carried. She was his Luna, the one he had been searching for. But she didn't feel ready for it. She still had so many questions, so many doubts. "Auric," she said, struggling to catch her breath as they ran. "What was that sound? Who's coming after us?" "We don't know yet," Auric replied, his jaw tight. "But we're not taking any chances. We need to make sure you're safe." They reached the center of the pack's compound, where the warriors were gathering, preparing for whatever threat was coming their way. Lena's mind was still reeling, but she could sense the urgency in the air. There was no time to think. The pack needed their leader, and she was caught in the middle of it all. Auric turned to his warriors, his voice commanding as he gave orders. "Prepare for a fight. We don't know how many there are, but we'll protect this territory with everything we have." Lena stood off to the side, her hands trembling. She had never been part of anything like this before, never imagined she would be standing in the middle of a wolf pack preparing for battle. She had come here by accident, and now her presence seemed to have stirred up something far darker than she could understand. Suddenly, one of the warriors, a tall man with piercing blue eyes, approached her. His gaze was intense, filled with curiosity and caution. "Lena," he said quietly, "are you okay?" She nodded, though she felt anything but okay. "I'm not sure what's happening. I didn't ask for any of this. I don't even know what I am." The warrior, whose name Lena had learned was Jace, gave her a sympathetic look. "You're more than you realize," he said softly. "But right now, the pack needs you. Auric needs you." Before Lena could respond, the howl came again, louder this time, followed by the sound of heavy footsteps approaching from the forest. The pack's warriors shifted into their wolf forms, their powerful bodies rippling with muscle and fur, ready for whatever danger was coming. Auric stood at the front, his eyes narrowed and focused. "Stay close to me, Lena," he said, his voice firm but protective. "I won't let anything happen to you." Lena nodded, but inside, she was a whirlwind of emotions. She wasn't sure if she was ready for this. She wasn't sure if she was ready to be Auric's Luna, to step into a world of power and danger. But one thing was clear: she couldn't turn back now. The first wave of attackers emerged from the trees, a pack of wolves, but not the kind Lena had come to know. These wolves were darker, their eyes glowing with a red light that sent a chill through Lena's body. They weren't from the Scarred Fang pack. They were enemies, strangers with malicious intent. The battle erupted quickly. Wolves clashed in the moonlight, their forms a blur of fur and strength. Auric fought with the fury of a king, his movements fluid and precise. Lena could barely keep up with what was happening around her, her heart pounding in her chest. She had never seen anything like this before. The power, the strength, the raw emotion, it was all too much. Lena watched in awe as Auric fought. He was a force of nature, each movement powerful and calculated. But even as he fought, he kept an eye on her, his gaze constantly checking to make sure she was safe. He was the Alpha King, the leader of the pack, but to her, he was something else too. A protector, someone who cared for her even though she wasn't sure if she deserved it. The enemy wolves were relentless, but the Scarred Fang pack was stronger. Slowly, the tide of the battle began to shift. The invaders were pushed back, their numbers dwindling as the warriors of the pack fought fiercely. Auric's leadership was unmatched, and his presence on the battlefield was a force that no one could deny. But just as it seemed like the battle was winding down, Lena felt a strange pull, a tug in her chest that she couldn't explain. She turned her gaze toward the forest where the shadows seemed to shift in a way that made her blood run cold. Something was coming, something worse than what they had just faced. Before she could speak, a figure emerged from the shadows, a tall, dark figure with glowing red eyes and an air of danger surrounding him. He was a wolf, but unlike any Lena had ever seen. His fur was black as night, and his eyes seemed to pierce through her very soul. "Auric," the figure growled, his voice deep and menacing. "It's been too long. I see you've found your Luna. But you should have known better than to claim her. Orc's eyes narrowed, his entire body tense as he stepped forward to face the new threat. "You're trespassing on my land, Malachi," he said, his voice low with anger. "And you're threatening the safety of my pack. I don't take kindly to that." Malachi let out a soft, mocking laugh. "You think you can protect her? The bond between you and your Luna is fragile, Orc. She's not what you think she is." Lena felt a cold wave of fear wash over her. The way Malachi spoke about her, like she was something dangerous, something to be feared. It unsettled her deeply. She took a step back, instinctively moving closer to Orc. "I don't know what you're talking about," Lena said, her voice shaking. I'm just me. I don't know anything about this world." Malachi's eyes flicked to her, a twisted smile forming on his lips. "That's the problem, isn't it? You have no idea what you're walking into, and neither does Orc. He's blind to the truth." Orc's expression darkened, his fists clenching at his sides. "You're lying, Malachi. I know exactly what I'm doing." But Malachi wasn't done. "You're playing a dangerous game, Alpha King. You think the moon goddess brought her to you by accident? You think she's here to save you? Think again. There's more to her than meets the eye, and when you find out the truth, you won't be able to save her, or yourself." Lena could feel the weight of Malachi's words pressing down on her. She didn't understand what he meant, but there was something in his tone, something dark, that made her believe he wasn't lying. Orc stepped forward, his wolf form now fully revealed, massive and powerful. "Enough, Malachi," he growled. "Leave, or I'll make you leave." For a moment, the two wolves stood facing each other, the tension thick in the air. But then, without warning, Malachi turned and disappeared back into the forest, his figure melting into the shadows. The battle was over, but Lena's mind was racing. What had Malachi meant? What was the truth about her, about the bond between her and Orc? Orc shifted back into his human form, his eyes filled with determination as he walked toward Lena. "Don't listen to him," he said softly. "Malachi is a liar. He'll say anything to get under our skin." Lena looked at him, her heart still pounding in her chest. "But what if he's right? What if I'm not what you think I am?" Orc took her hands in his touch gentle yet firm. "You are my Luna, Lena. And nothing, not even Malachi, can change that. We'll face whatever comes together. I won't let anything take you from me." But Lena couldn't shake the feeling that the real danger was just beginning. She was connected to Orc now, bound to him by the moon. But was she ready for the challenges ahead? Was she ready for the truth? Cliffhanger. As the night settled, a strange light appeared in the sky, an unnatural glow that seemed to pulse with energy. Orc looked up, his eyes wide with fear. "It's begun," he whispered. "The moon's true power is awakening." Lena turned to face him, her heart heavy with the weight of the unknown. She didn't know what the future